actually today we've taken a road trip outside of the shop, outside of Frankfort, Illinois, into Chicago, the big city. So we're here at the Klairmont Collection. That's Klairmont with a K. And it's a great little, no, it's not a little museum. It's a big museum that we have here in Chicago that's really ramped up its collection in the last year or so. Larry Klairmont, who was the originator of the collection itself, was kind of a private museum up until about a year and a half ago when Larry passed away. He had fortunately provided for the financial continuation of the museum. And now they've got all the government required stuff to be a regular operating full-fledged museum. And they have really done tremendous amount of upgrades here. The cars themselves are spectacular. They've got more of them. They've got about 300 cars on display at all time, and all the memorabilia that goes with it. I mean, the neon alone, I bet if you stretched it all out, would be a couple miles worth of neon in this building. And the types of cars, they range from the turn of the previous century, you know, the early 1900s, up until probably early 2000s. That's pretty much the, you know, wide range of vehicles. And there's no one focus of the museum. It's not all race cars, it's not all muscle cars, it's everything. If you come to this museum, you will find something you like because they have everything here. It's tremendous. Another cool thing about this museum is you don't see any stanchions or ropes around the cars. Very few cars have that. There are a couple, but very few of them have that. You can get right up to the car and take a look. You want to take a look at the interior? No problem, just kind of take a look. You know, most of the cars have the windows down. You can take a peek inside, and convertibles mostly with the tops down. So you can really get close up to the things and see what the cars are really like. So that makes it pretty fun. We're in front of right now a Corvair Yenko Stinger, and of course, you know, being a Corvair guy, the car is kind of special to us. And even more so than that, because it's a local car. The car belonged to our friend and fellow club member, Al Houston. Al passed away a couple years ago. His car went through a couple of hands since then, but we were greatly surprised when we came down to the Klairmont here, and oh my God, it's Al's car. So we were greatly pleased to see it kind of return to the area here. And along with the museum at this time also has a very, very nice 61 Corvair Greenbrier 8-door, restored to very nice condition. They bought it at one of the auctions. And like I say, the Klairmont folks have been going to a lot of the auctions lately and picking up more and more cars, really nicely done cars, rare cars. It's quite a sight. And the museum does change. It's not always the same cars. Right now they've got a great display going on of cars that if I was going to a rod and custom car show in about 1961 or so, these are the cars I would expect to see in another part of the museum here. It's all, remember in '61, everybody was trying to make their car look like George Jetson's car. Oh, they had rocket shapes on them and plexiglass canopies and all that kind of stuff. They got a great selection of cars here, cars that were built back in the day, not something that somebody reproduced, but cars, you wonder about show cars. What happens to them all? What did they do after that time and period was done? Well, a lot of them got put away, a lot of them got saved, and they got a bunch of them here. This was great. So it's a neat place, and we're going to take a walk around. So I was able to corner Bob Olson, the president of the Klairmont Museum here, so we wanted to find a little bit about the history of this place. How did this all happen?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for thinking of us and coming here today. And my name is Robert Olson. I'm the president of the Klairmont Collection's Automotive Museum in Chicago. And this collection is now an automotive museum. So in the museum itself, when you first walk in, because we were a collection and we are in this transition phase, we don't have any elaborate signage on Belmont Avenue. That's coming. The signs on the exterior of the building, they're minimalist.
Right. Yeah.
moving forward, that'll change. But when you do walk into the museum, you walk in, and I've said this in other interviews, it's really that Willy Wonka kind of an experience.
Oh, yeah.
You walk in, and all of a sudden there's colors and lights and objects, and you're just overwhelmed. You know, and you look at it and you kind of say, well, wow, this is all here, but how did it get here? And then really, the natural chronology and the natural conversation of Mr. Klairmont, you know, happens, and it's just one more piece of the puzzle that puts you in awe. The transition from collection to automotive museum, to some people, they might not understand the difference. And for us, that transition really meant getting the messaging out about how important the role of automobiles have played throughout modern history, and making this museum into an educational hub. Mecum Auctions, I can't say enough about them. They are.
I've seen their license plates on a number of the cars here.
They are, but they are our partner in our educational programs. Every year they give us a set amount of money so that we could get inner city field trips to the museum.
Great.
You know, a lot of the lower income schools, they don't have extra money to do things as such, and it's our mission to get these kids here so that the vehicles, the creators of the vehicles are appreciated, and everyone understands that role that these vehicles have played throughout our history.
Question, what do you foresee in the next year or so for the museum?
Yeah, so what I foresee in the next museum, a big component I mentioned was education. So we can walk you through and talk about the cars. We can talk about the stories that are attached to the cars. We have our decades posters up on the wall.
Yeah.
Again, every 10 years there's a car. There's the prominent things that happen in the world around that car. But ultimately, we want to put in an we'll call it an institution, so that we ourselves can facilitate the restoration and preservation of the vehicles.
Yeah.
So we're bumping out our mechanics area so you can actively see cars getting worked on, the different systems, you know, even something like a 6-volt system versus a 12-volt system. So on Knox Avenue, we're adding 2 restoration bays. I hope within the next 12 months, you'll be able to see that institute mentality here at Klairmont.
Cool.
And we will be engaging with some colleges and some other tradesmen so that this museum can act as that educational hub for all of the things I mentioned.
That's great. We can't wait to make another trip here, because, you know, I've been here a couple times already, and every time I come back, it's, holy cow, what, there's more stuff here, man. I got to see it again.
There is. We actually added a muscle car room, and I'll say this, Mr. Klairmont wasn't a muscle car guy, but when you do the math on his age, he was a hard-working dad right during that muscle car era. You know, it was something that maybe a generation or two underneath him was. But one of our last conversations, very heartfelt conversation, where he called myself and a couple other individuals to his house, and he sat down with us, and he said, hey, I've got some duplicates, I've got some other cars, it's okay to get rid of some things and kind of elevate the collection and turn that page. And it was, you know, it was a very sincere moment, and we're doing that.
That's great. That's great. Bob, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thank you much. Thank you again for coming.